Hey guys, morning everybody. Just a second, go live. Dogs. Morning everybody. Do a quick video. Oh man. Oh, that day comes a lot. Today we leave for a little vacation with go meet Maddie and the grandbabies. They're gonna meet up in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Go to the beach. That was always one of the strangest things to me until we went there for the first time. I never associated Alabama with no dadgum beaches or nothing. It's Alabama. It's supposed to. It's a bunch of rednecks and backwoods steels. I don't know. But until I went, I didn't realize Alabama had such a nice freaking coastline there. Nice. Heck, it's better than most we got in Texas. Galveston is South Padre Island is probably the best we got. Wake and bake with you guys. So going on a little vacation, and it's funny. You sit there and look at your kids, and yeah, I remember as a kid, same situation they're in, loading up and going on. See, our vacations when I was a kid, we went to the beach and we went mountains. That we had we had a little pull behind trailer, and after having 30 plus foot RVs that sleep 10 and stuff, yeah, look back at that little pull behind we had, and the four of us packed into that thing. It was a good time. Family vacations. And so Maddie's got that gene in her that she wants to have a family vacation every year. We always did with the girls. We would go somewhere. We hit amusement parks. We did Disneyland, Disney World. We did Six Flags. We did the water parks. But do people still do that? Are they still? I mean, right now, I know there's a large group of people that have gone. Yeah, not happening. My son-in-law picked this place and booked this place months ago. I want to say almost a year ago, he booked this, and it's a Hilton property, and we've been, buddy of mine, Robert Murdoch, he's a funny story. He started out in high school as a desk clerk at a little local roach motel, and he worked his way all the way up through the hotel industry, and he was a general manager of a Hilton Garden Inn in Austin. It's funny, no education, just training that the company offered. So back, who are the kids? Alex wasn't even 10. He got that general manager job, and I went and stayed at one of his properties, and he signed me up for the Hilton Rewards. He signed me up that day for the Hilton Rewards and came to the free breakfast, and all this. Well, now, almost 20 years later, we're still using it. But, and this is funny, I think you got those reward points. I don't even know how many we have. I don't know how to use them. Kathy always books stuff, so if she doesn't know how to use it and is using it, then I certainly don't. And yesterday, I called to confirm, that we had adjoining rooms, and the girl, after helping me, says, do you have a minute for one of our promotional offers? Yeah, sure. I ain't got nothing else to do. I'll try and make this guy's day. And, it's one of those deals. You come to our resort, for a mere 2 hour, introduction, 2 hour, to our timeshare systems. And they give me all these prices, and he gives me a price same as this trip. 4 nights, 3 days, Hilton property, Hilton resort, and he starts bragging, "Yeah, I can get you those rooms $199 a night." And that's good for a year. And I'll give you 500 reward points. Can we sign you up today? You got a credit card? You got a debit card? I'm like, oh, wow, buddy. He's like, well, this is a one-time offer. And, I am going to give you 500 points. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 200 more. I'll give you 700 points. I'm like, oh, okay. I chose Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And he's like, I got this, got that, doop, doop, doop. And I'm like, okay. I said, I'm sure you hear this all the time. But I got to talk to my wife about it. And he's like, how long you and your wife been together? And I said, 28 years. And he says, oh, man, so y'all probably know each other pretty good. And I said, you'd think so, wouldn't you? And he said, so, does it sound like something she'd like? I said, she'd love it if it was about half the price of what you just quoted. Oh, we can't do that. And I said, see, you don't realize my wife's an old Jew. She's greedy. She's a Ukrainian Jew. She's tight with that money. And he's like, well, how about, you can put half down right now today and secure this. And within next year, finish paying it off. And I said, I said again, surely you hear this all the time. Surely you don't get someone on the line very often that just goes, all right now, I'll shoot you. That they never have to correspond with a significant other. But they're hard sales. Boom, boom. I mean, hard sales. And they start getting upset. You know how they do. They start getting upset. Well, what can I do to get you in this offer today? It's not like a car. I'm not going to go, yeah, she just runs too good. I need it. Yeah. So those guys are always fun. But going on these vacations, this will be like our first vacation with the grandbabies. Addie will be 3, July the 7th. Emma turned 1 back in March. So this will be interesting. I remember taking the girls on their first trips at those age. I think we loaded. Yeah, we did. We loaded them up in a freaking minivan, and we went to Canada with them. Yeah, we went to Canada with them. I know my first time into Canada, it was weird because, our highway systems and stuff here are just, they're pretty good, pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy, navigate. We come across the Canadian border and get through our checkpoint, which those Canadians were treating us like we were smuggling our own kids in or something. It was weird, man. It was weird at the border. But the roads were terrible. I was like, we're driving, and I'm like, this is a main highway. This is the way to your parents' place, your sister's. This is the main road. Yeah, I know. She's like, yeah, I know. And it was half dirt. It was muddy. It was terrible. No, oh my God, this is Canada. It felt like, driving into the woods in a spooky movie. The way, oh my gosh, terrible roads. And they didn't get much better. They didn't get much better anywhere. And this was the main entry into the country. And so, those trips, family vacations, those babies in that minivan all the way to Canada. And that was back in the day where it was maps. We were using maps. We didn't have no GPS. And we navigated all over this country with those kids in tow with just maps. We were good map readers and stuff. But the family vacation, is it still a thing? I mean, I don't, you don't see the as much for anything other than like Disneyland for family vacations. Not around here anyway. If it's not a pharmaceutical commercial, it's a car or it's a lawyer. Those are the ads these days. That's about all you get. But a subject that came up, I don't know if I did a live stream since, but it's on the lines of what a lot of flat earthers believe as far as electromagnetic grid and the force of density versus gravity and frequency. I've been studying in frequency and healing frequencies for 6-7 years now since I broke my back, and I sleep to it every night, and I sleep well. And I've also got a frequency generator coming. It'll be here today, but we'll be gone. We're leaving around 10 o'clock this morning, and it just my frequency generator's coming. But this on the lines of frequency and the nature Fibonacci sequence, Tesla's 369. I'm seeing a weird phenomenon that actor Terrence Howard, black guy, has come out with the theory of the ether, with the ether being involved and everything, and the globe model says the free space is 96% of our universe is dark matter. It's undetectable. It doesn't it can't test it, taste it, smell it. But we can detect it. We know something's there. They just don't know what. So we've always thought we know it's the ether. It's the ether. And he's come up with a freaking model, man. It's pretty crazy. He says he's going to change propulsion. He's going to change the way we see math. That was one of the things that I'm still kicking around my head. I think 2 or 3 videos ago, I put it out there. Just sit down and think about it. 1 times 1 equals 1. Why? Why does 1 times 1 equal 1? And we're all told that that's just abstract. That's just the way it works. But this guy, he put this out there, and it's been kicking me around a little bit. I think I've got it. But if you think about the fact that multiplication is a description of an action you're fixing to do. You're fixing to increase whatever you're multiplying. It's going to increase. To answer that number under instruction of the X, you must increase. So why is 1 times 1? That's stasis. That's no movement. That it didn't follow instruction. That's not what the equation said to do. So 1 times 1 should then equal 2 because you've multiplied. That's what the action requires. And people go, well, no, that's addition. Multiplication is adding to your number also. Why is it always been seen as not applying? It's an instruction. You're supposed to multiply that number. If it does not increase, then that instruction wasn't followed. So he says, and Whitsitt says on the lines of kind of the same thing, but not in that way, that if the globe's R factor is off, which if they use that math and those numbers it's off. If the radius is off, then everything is off. Nothing works. Nothing. And so I encourage you to go search the YouTube videos for Terrence Howard videos. I've seen some people, and the biggest proponent of him is right now that I've seen is Owen Benjamin. And Owen Benjamin's a pretty smart guy, but he took one look at this and went, this guy's an idiot. There's no way. See, so many people are locked into that mindset of it's numbers, that's the way it works. But we all know enough to know that zero is an invention, that zero doesn't exist in nature. Nothing. It's nothing. And so they started that decimal point system. And one of the neatest things to do, if you don't believe it, is like on your calculator, add point, 0.1 times, or multiply 1.1 times 0.1. And you don't get 0.2. You get 0.0, like 36. It's weird. You do, 0.25. Say it's a quarter. Think of it as money. They do 25 cents times 25 cents. You don't get 0.50. And I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. And those numbers don't work out because of the decimal system. And I just encourage you to watch that Terrence Howard video. He's onto something. The flower of life. We all. If you've looked, if you search mud, flood, flat earth, any of that, you've seen, and they say all the way back to the oldest of artifacts, they have the flower of life. Every culture had a depiction of the flower of life. Tesla says, think of the universe as electricity, frequency, and vibration. 369, Fibonacci sequence. All these things come from, they're natural, observable, explanations of nature and their surroundings. And people are crapping on him because he's using Walter Russell's periodic table. And Owen Benjamin was laughing because he said each element has its own frequency. And when you find the right frequencies and you put two together, you make some, a new structure. And you can manipulate through frequency. And like people like Owen Benjamin, like, yeah, right. Like the periodic table has different octaves in it. And, people just crap all over it. But then those same people will say, yeah, of course there's a creator. He said in the beginning, let there be light. He created everything. And it's like, okay, what was that first thing? What was it? He said, let there be light. And with frequency and vibration from his mouth or his auditory system, light became. And we know light is electricity. I think that first light was the ether. Boom. Because it's not a sun type of light. It's not moon type of light. It's not, stars type of light. It's not incandescent light. It's light. So, I see his whole ideology. I see what he's saying because I've just been diving so deep into frequency and healing. I've said before in my videos, if I get upset stomach, if I start having GERD, I'll turn on a frequency, man, lay it on my chest and feel it subsiding. And, like I said, sleep, I use it for sleep. I use it for my back pain. And now I got my frequency generator coming. And I'll be giving updates on that thing. But our surroundings are filled with so many frequencies, good and bad. I learned early on in my search for healing that I mean, it goes back to ancient, monks and their chants and the cathedrals with all the somatic patterns and the the frequencies that could be generated in these huge buildings. And the cave systems they found, they have that one cave where if you stand right in this perfect spot, you can talk in a normal voice and people can hear you from hundreds, or more feet away, easily hear you. And that's just all understanding frequency and vibration and stuff. And there's something to it. There's something to it. They've been hiding it. We know that. We know what they did to Raymond Rife. We know what they did to Tesla. We know what they did to anybody that was on to the use of frequency. There's a famous guy. What's his name? There's a good video out there where he had a shed set up, he had a lab set up, and he was levitating everything from bowling balls to wrenches. He was changing the molecular structure of metals with frequency. He was doing a lot of stuff with frequency. He was figuring it out. And old Terrence Howard says propulsion, man, is his thing. Propulsion. And he says he has patents on all this. Owen Benjamin found one patent that was just a patent application, and it was for a kid's toy or something. And he's like, see, this guy's an idiot. Well, I think he has 10 or more patents. He showed his patents on the one deal I was watching. And so his propulsion, he said he'd put it under firearms so nobody could take the patent and use it for projectiles. And that his technology is going to change everything. He said it's going to change everything from transportation to industrial. He said you can scale these machines that he's going to be making with this new geometry using a flower of life. He's got a prototype of a drone that has like 6 propellers on it, 6 engines on it, and it flies like a spaceship. Pew, 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 pew. Even more proficient than the regular 4 rotor drones. They have some really cool ones. So he says he's going to take this to a scale where you can use it all the way from the smallest application on a job site for you need like a forklift to ports, where you unload ships. That going to be able to get rid of cranes. You're going to be able to get rid of all this stuff. You'll just have a remote deal, fly it over, and they'll all be programmed. You can do more than one at a time, type of stuff. Pretty interesting. Pretty freaking interesting. And that own personal transportation. He was talking about in the future, no reason not have the free energy that Tesla talked about. Those of us who followed Flat Earth, we understand that with potential available electricity, the higher you go up in the atmosphere, and that in the past they were using it, and in the past they knew how to harness it. So why not now? We know why not now. Big oil and big industries, and one of the things you don't understand, how devastating that'd be to the economy if you wiped out, say you need to take over air travel and charge people $10 instead of $200-300 to fly. You're going to ruin this industry. We'd lay off tens of thousands, if not millions of people would be out of work. Well, if those millions of people that were out of work now have either no electric bill or a very small one, if all their food, all their amenities, everything we need, shelter, What if all that is now energy cost has been cut down to a tenth of what it was, and then food production cut down, delivery, all that. You see what I'm saying? There's a way if you know if the will is there, the will's there on the part of the people, but not not on the corporations. What good would that do them? And it's amazing to think that those people wouldn't look at a big picture deal and go, well, if we do this, this will just make it so much better for everybody. I won't make as much money, but hey, look, it's for everyone. Let's do this. No, they're like, what are the numbers, Johnson? Well, our income, our gross income over each quarter is going to drop by 74%. What? We can't, if we're not going to make $5 billion a year, you have to shut the place down. Really? Okay. You won't take a pay cut? None of these guys ever take pay cuts. Do you ever hear of a corporation, CEO coming out going, this inflation, all this stuff, I know it's hard, so I'm going to do my part. I'm going to forego, my bonus this year, which is where they put all their money, or something. No, they don't do it. Remember in the 80s movie, Mr. Mom, where Schooner Tuna, they were going to freeze the price of tuna until they get through this tough economic times. And they're like, no, you can't do that. That's crazy. And the wife says, no, you don't understand. Moms are home shopping. We're budgeting. If you can do that, we'll stick with you, if you're there for us, type of stuff. But nobody does that in industry. Now, nobody, as far as we know. Oh, and have you seen, speaking of tech, I saw it for the first time yesterday. Elon Musk is asking, would you buy a phone? If I made a phone, if it was 100% private, if it was, 100%, safe, if it was, if it was better than the iPhone. Elon said for a long time, he wants X to be the one site and be an app that you do everything on. Don't have a separate app for banking, one for, whatever. Just one phone with all the apps right there on it through his site. And, Apple and but I guess Samsung Android platform has at a corner, in the market. So what do? A capitalist will say, hey, more the merrier in the marketplace, right? More the merrier. But there's something I noticed in my own life when it comes to technology like that. We tend to stick with what we know. We know, our devices right now. He comes out with a new one. A lot of people, I'd say, more than half the people will just not do it because the animal they know, what they know this iPhone, they know their Android. They don't want to get into a new system that they don't understand. We understand, Apple's iOS, and we understand Android's, platforms, and he's trying to introduce another one. And so it's kind of like Bill Gates did to us with Windows. Frank, he gave it to him for free, so it'd be in everything. So now you can't get away from that. And so right now, the way it lays is we're at their control. We don't have much say. Have many options. We think we got a lot of options, but we don't really have options, because any alternative option just uses these guys. They use these central players. They're just a third, middleman. It's not really choices, but we're coming into some change, man. I hope it goes. I hope it works. Look up Terrence Howard if you hadn't already watched him. It's interesting, and you make your own decision. But the things he's saying are things I've heard over the last 6-7 years. excuse me, about Tesla, about William William Russell, about, you know, Rife, all these guys. You know, this is all the stuff kind of coming to fruition with this one guy of all of those things I've heard about and been putting into practice. It's not like I hadn't dove deep into it. I don't know if you've ever done it, but there's things online you can go and I always just opt in healing frequencies. And there's plenty of websites. You click on it and they'll have examples. You know, if you have it on like your home stereo system and you go through those different frequencies, you can feel what they do to you. You know, you can definitely feel their effects. And so, you know, it made sense to me. It made sense to me that everything is electromagnetic. You know, it makes sense to me that everything has its frequency, and that's the way nature works in harmony. They found that a lot of different creatures, you know, especially like bees and stuff that fly, that, you know, well, they use frequency a lot. They communicate with frequency. Everything's frequency. One of the first things I ever saw was this guy took a beehive and observed them and kind of tracked a few of them that were the scouts that would go out. And so we fitted them all with these transmitters and set up this grid, and they take off on a pattern. And once one of them found the water, the frequency, he would send the signal, and all of a sudden you'd see everybody else follow his same path. And he had a grid set up, you know, using this frequency, tracking them. And it was just amazing the way that, boom, once the source was found and the signal was sent out, that it just became one kind of harmonic deal that they right to their source and back efficiently. You know, so when you see things like that, you know, we know about, you know, I'm sitting there thinking of somebody, oh man, I hadn't thought of them in forever. Well, we know now that they were thinking about you. That's more likely the process. They were thinking about you, and that we can send those thoughts to people. We just have to understand how to do it and how to use it, and you know, trust it. Because me and my wife for years, I always just joked and called it radar love. Because more times than we can even count, you know, we both know that I pick up the phone and I'm fixing to start texting her and she calls, you know, or vice versa. Or we do this all the time. She'll always contact me before she heads home, and I'm like, how about X for supper? And she's like, yes, I was thinking of that. Yes. And it's just, we do that all the time. And I think more people do it and they don't recognize what it is. But it's like, you know, the whole remote viewing thing that the military did, you know, those kind of things. The movie Men Who Stare at Goats. I mean, they're telling us stuff in those movies that these things are possible, and that, you know, they have people that can do it, you know. So it's an exciting time to be alive. I mean, this is, if this stuff in the next 20, 25 years, while I'm still on this earth, if this hits like I pray and hope it will, this is going to be cool. It's going to be so cool. So many things are going to change. You know, and I've always, when I thought of it, I always saw a day where say your refrigerator, whoever you bought it from, they send you a package, and in the package is like a what would I call it? A receiver transformer. That all you do is you just plug it in between your plug, you know, and the wall, and it makes it basically free energy. It pulls energy out of the air rather than through the plug. It's still getting a little through the plug, but it doesn't need it. It's just, that's what I've envisioned will be the first form that we'll be able to put these devices, you know, on. And well, you wouldn't necessarily have to plug it in. You just would add it. Right now with the plugs, eventually the plugs would disappear. There wouldn't be plugs on anything. Everything you just turn on and it just takes it out of the air. And I think I'm gonna see that in my lifetime. I think we're gonna, at worst, I think we're gonna see the early industry of it pop up, where you're gonna have things like, you know, lamps, light fixtures that don't need wiring. You just mount them, put a bulb in it, touch it, touch. Everything will be touch or sound. You know, I can see that they would be able to program lights with a frequency that a word would make. You say light, turn it on. I can just, because it's that finite. That frequency is just there's infinite. I would think there's basically infinite frequencies. Like we've always known, there are frequencies we can't even hear, can't see them, can't detect them, physically. And then there are frequencies that definitely you feel, definitely affect you. So that's exciting. That's cool. That's really cool. I'm seeing exactly what I would expect when somebody comes up with a new idea or refurbishes it. This is basically refurbishing an old idea. That, the hate. Ooh, the hate. Especially that guy. Because he was thought of as an actor. He's just an actor. And that's what's funny. It doesn't mean he can't be smart too. Good examples of those kind of things are like rock bands and stuff, like Boston and Steely Dan. Those guys were engineers. They were very smart, and they started putting equipment together and going, I can get cool sounds out of this, So you can find genius in just about every field. You just don't know it's there yet. So preliminary is his ideas are understand. Whether he'll be allowed to push it forward. He says in his interview, if you watch it, he says with Joe Rogan, he says, I tried to talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson about it. I sent him a 36-page, kind of introduction deal, and he sent it back to me all marked up in red. And his only contention was that I was using Walter Russell, Tesla, people like that, those guys, he just shit on the mentors that he mentioned in their work. He just crapped on that stuff. He didn't crap on the idea. He didn't crap on the on the premise. He crapped on the idea and on the people, and then he just boom, cut off communication. Won't even talk to the guy about it. Think about that. What kind of chump is that? That he won't even discuss it with this guy. So that tells you something right there. When they don't even want to give you the time of day, it tells you something. That's not science. It's not science. You would think that every physicist out there would be like, what? I can prove you wrong. Come here. Bring your stuff in here and I'll show you where you're wrong. Nobody's doing that. Everybody's just going, he's an idiot. The guy's just an actor. What does he know? He read a few books. He read a few books. But, to me, when you get rid of the decimal system and use the 369 Fibonacci, when you account for the ether, when you do those things, it all lines up. That's been proven many times. You don't have to have qualifiers. You don't have to have, asterisks going, okay, this could vary, from da da da. You don't have these things where we're like, who's that automotive guy, the physicist? I've seen a clip of him going, in most things, if you're off, 1%, 2%, you're thought of to be, still far off the mark. He says, but in cosmology, we're off, 10 to like the 72nd power or something. That's how far we're off. But they give it to us as fact. How do you work with a system that's that far off? Admittedly, but is taken as, yeah, this is what it is. And that's hard to imagine. That's hard to swallow. For this stuff, this idea, this way of thinking, um, doesn't have that. It's either there or it's not. It's in part of the flower of life. One of the things he makes a point of that is interesting to me is that there aren't any straight lines in nature. We had to invent the straight line to invent geometry and trigonometry and stuff. But there are no straight lines in nature. And so when you know that, and it's funny, he says you can take a pencil and draw a straight line, and you look at it under electron microscope, and it's not straight. It's wavy. And so yeah, everything has electromagnetic field, the torus field in it. And so therefore, there's curves everywhere. And a lot of people say, well, that proves that it's a ball. No, it does not prove anything about a ball. But like Kenny and Whitsitt and other people say, like the toroidal field, we're living on that plane of inertia in the middle of the magnetic field. That's where we live. That's where the atmosphere, that's where the electrostatics are just right for us. And that makes more sense than spinning. That makes more sense than hurling randomly through the galaxy with no detection of any kind of motion. Pretty neat magic trick. Pretty neat magic trick that they've sold us, that that we can be in such a system that you have to use your imagination to think that we're spinning one direction, and inside of our not contained system that seems contained, it's spinning, and it's all spinning so much in just a perfect way that we can't tell it. We just can't detect it. Have invented the most sensitive of apparatus for measuring, and we find nothing. And then they go, that negative result proves that we're spinning because you can't see it. Yeah, that's why you can't see it. And the reason is all just so amazingly perfect that it shrinks the measuring device and slows down time, so we can't see it, but it's happening. What? That is one of the dumbest things. Hey, bud, how you doing? Good to see you too. Have you seen this? What I'm talking about? Terrence Howard and his new ideologies and electromagnets and in nature and all that. Pretty interesting. I just, anything, we know this, anything that's on the mark, that's over the target, is gonna get crapped on. Gonna have such. These people are so funny, the Globers. Oh, it's you got to look it up, man. Look up Terrence Howard and listen to what he's saying. If you paid any attention at all over the last 10 years, it's been coming out more and more and more about frequency. And one of the big things that caught me, how important it is, was 3 years ago in the big winter storms we had. I watched a deal about the grid in Texas, and I did not realize that all of the all the turbines to make the system work right have to get up and stay at 60 hertz cycle, not 3,500 RPMs, not running at X amount of voltage. They don't gauge it on any of those things. They gauge it on 60 hertz. And once they they reach 60 hertz, they magnetically couple all around the state. It's a magnetic field. They couple. And when they have to shut one down is because the load starts pulling on it, starts dropping below 60 hertz. And if it drops below 60 hertz as it's running, it starts losing balance and it'll tear all apart. So they have to turn it down. They have to shut it off. Yeah, did you see that, Joe Rogan? What did you think about that? That was one of the better interviews where he got to take his time and show some things. That was interesting, man. I mean, because you look at the flower of life and you put it in a 3D, situation. Like, we live in this. It's 3D, right? And so once you put it in 3D, it starts making sense. There's like you pointed out, the first module of it looks like a bubble, right? And then you can put bubbles, bubbles stick together. And that's, wow, it always makes that same form. So it's pretty interesting. I think it's either going to get completely squashed or they're going to let some individual people have a little bit of progress in it. I think, it's one or the other. It completely goes the other way, or they let a little bit out. And the whole thing about hydrogen and it being a huge part of everything. And if like you said, when you add a certain frequency to hydrogen, you get this component. When you add another frequency, you get this component. And when you understand those and use that frequency, that makes so much sense to the ancients and how they built things like pyramids and those huge cathedrals. They understood the frequency. Those guys have shown on those Van de Graaff generators, at low voltages, you can levitate things. You can just add a magnetic field and boom, levitate it. And I can see them doing that with like the pyramids, frequency, like the guy's Coral Castle down in Florida. He had some device where he was able to cut that stuff and fit it together and lift it perfectly by himself. And it's one of those deals. It's out there. I know it's out there. They just won't let us have it. They just won't let us have it. It's too efficient. It's free, basically. There's very little to it once you have a generator for it. And like I said, I got a frequency generator coming from the Spooky company called Spooky, and they're building these off the Royal Raymond Rife philosophy and idea of frequency and healing. And like I said, it's supposed to be here today. I ain't going to get to use it till I get home on Monday, but that'll be a good test because I know my back's going to be killing me from the drive and stuff. But look it up, guys. Check it out. Dive into it. Pass it around. It's important. It's big stuff. It's important. These kind of things, have been held from us for so long, and we're lucky enough to have people. Oh yeah, I mean, anybody that that's been onto something in our lifetime, something's happened to them. It's terrible, man. It's terrible. Well, it is. I mean, hydrogen. One of the things that kind of struck me that you don't think about until you hear it is that, like water, we cannot make water. Like in a lab, we can't take hydrogen and oxygen and combine them and make water. They have no idea how to do that. But I think you would, if the process is the way I'm saying it, you'd be able to use frequency. You have the right frequency, and you had hydrogen and oxygen, and there's a frequency that they become water, that they're harmonious. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, all right. All right, that's true. We cannot make water. It exists. We can draw it out of the atmosphere with pressure and temperature. We can add electricity, frequency, and pressure and temperature, and we can make rain, hail, snow. There's water. in all its forms. But as far as going, all right, I have this and I have that. Here's water. Can't do it. So those kind of things that they're keeping from us, that they don't let us fully explore, fully utilize. There's something to it. That's like cannabis. When they got rid of cannabis, you knew, you can look back and go, oh, the only reason they did it was competition with pharmaceuticals. You know, alcohol. I found out something I'd never heard before. Well, alcohol prohibition. Well, a huge part of it was because people were using it as fuel in their vehicles, and they were making it at home. Right, right. And it's funny. I was watching a deal. They were talking about Saturn. Who was it? Oh, it was Neil deGrasse Tyson with somebody, and they were talking about, okay, so Saturn is just a ball of gas, and if you were to go there, there would be no surface to land on. You just go through it. It's just a gas cloud. He's like, yes, as the pressure changed, and you were going, it'd just be, you'd keep going through it, and it's like, what? That's just for me, man. Some of that stuff, I'm no freaking astrophysicist, but that makes no sense. That you see a light in the sky, and you see it, formation. When you look at it, you can see the hexagon on the top of it is fascinating. How does that hexagon stay there? And then, just him telling us that horse shit. It's just a gaseous ball that happens to stay in a perfect symmetry, doesn't fly away from itself. He says that center, that deal, that's going to become another planet someday. That was Terrence Howard said that. His idea of how planets are formed and stuff. Yeah, he's still half on the heliocentric model. He's not come to the firmament and enclosed and all the stuff. All that's just ours. That is not trillions of miles and all that crap. He hadn't come to that yet. But yeah, them claiming that kind of stuff, it's just, there's no basis. It's just their fantasies. And it's sold as, well, this guy's got the PhD, man. If anybody knows, he knows. Yeah, that don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. We're in for quite a ride. It's gonna be crazy, man. It is gonna be crazy. So pass it around, start looking at that. They go by consensus, right? You always hear the Globers go, everybody knows. Everybody the consensus, just so what? There was a time when the consensus was, if you throw a woman in water and she floats, she's a witch. Burn her at the stake, or however that goes, right? Either they sink or they float, I don't remember. But it's crazy, right? This is crazy. I always thought, I was under the impression until 10 years ago that all these scientists all over the world were in labs, testing, working for research and developing better. Everybody had their niche, and they were just trying to, they were throwing tests at everything to go better on everything. And you find out now that everything they do is just to get the answer their funder wants. Whatever their funder's agenda is, that's the answer they're going to find for them. They're going to find that answer somewhere or another. It doesn't matter if they have to make math equations that cover up, 5 chalkboards like you see in the movies. It doesn't matter if they have to make excuses and new definitions and come up with things they can't explain. It doesn't matter. No, I didn't hear that. I mean, there's lots of stuff out there, observations that flat earthers and amateurs have made that just get suppressed, shit on, or completely ignored because We have the Hubble telescope. We have the James Webb telescope. We don't need you. You know, the most exciting thing I've seen, especially with this last eclipse, is that all these people now are watching and nobody, and this is fast. This is something I totally agree with, because I did the lunar eclipse 2 years ago. I got all the pictures, but there's no indication of the moon coming across. There's nothing. When they've got it on infrared, and the light just starts disappearing, from one side to the other, and there's no discernible physical entity going in front of that sun or the moon. There's nothing detectable. People who do astronomy, and they know even when there's a full moon, or a new moon, and can't see it, that it should be in these spots, and it should make some kind of signature, but there's nothing. There's nothing. It's they honestly, they can't tell you anything else, because I've seen enough of them where you're watching the freaking eclipse and they've got all the filters on so you can see perfect, and the edge comes in and starts moving, but there's nothing behind it. The light glows just like there was. It's crazy. But why don't they won't admit that? They won't come out and go, we don't know. We say it's the moon, but we don't know. There's no evidence that that's what's happening. We think that's what's happening, but we don't know. And they won't do it. They won't do it. They just put everything out as fact. There you go. End of story. So I encourage people to look that up. Get eyes on that. Watch those videos, like them, and share them. We're something we got to get into the mindset of going forward is we're battling algorithms for truth. And if enough people follow true things and like and share them, the algorithm can't ignore them, because it's told these are the parameters that make for, front of the line. The whole consensus. The more people that agree with one thing, the more the algorithm will push it out. And I know they have parameters on them, but that's why we have to do it, in the semi-covert way, and use abbreviations, FE for flat Earth, different things, and to get around that. But we're battling an algorithm, and if we don't understand and learn how to manipulate it and keep the truth going, it'll cover it up. It'll completely squash it. And then it'll make it a footnote. It'd be sad when truth becomes a footnote. So let's not go there. All right. Join Facebook Flat Earth group for... Yeah, you see that. Somebody pointed that out. If you look at all the negative comments and a lot of these things, and you click on those people that don't have any followers, it's just a channel, or it's just a page. They have no friends. They have nothing, right? It's just it's robots. It's like when you see people like Jake Paul and all those guys. Early on, they went out and bought 100,000 subscribers. They went and bought views. They went and bought all this stuff. And people are like, wow, they've got 2 million subscribers. Wow, that video had 1 million views. Must be great, right? That's bullshit. That was one of those things I thought was just inherently obvious in any of this. You shouldn't be able to manufacture fake shit like that everybody's watching your stuff. All right, I better go. I heard Kathy get up. All right, guys. Love y'all. Good discernment. Good vibration. Take care.